So I am here with Joe Devon, one of the two massive brains behind Global Accessibility Awareness Day. How long has it been now? What anniversary is this?
This is the 12th year of GAD.
Wow. So we're actually recording this after GAD week. It should probably be GAW at the end because it's more like a month, isn't it, really? So hence why we're still bothering you even after the manic week of events. But brilliant. Thank you so much. Many congratulations for another amazing event this year. So many events have been put on, so many presentations and articles and blog posts. So how has it been for you, like looking back last week?
As always, absolute insanity. Lots of talks every year. Something crazy happens where you're like, "What?" So this year, Jennison and I, along with his musical name is AWOL, and Coop, have released a rap song for GAD. So that was completely unexpected. Never thought I would do that. Yeah.
Wow, is that copyrighted or is it creative? Could we put it on at the end of this podcast?
Good question. I'll hook you up with AWOL, who's a LinkedIn rapper, and he was the brainchild of this. I think that as long as it's going to go to charity. So I don't know all the details on the copyright, but I'll hook you up, and hopefully we can do that.
That probably means that you won't hear it at the end of this, guys, but you will be able to go away and find it and then obviously, donate to charity. So yeah, that's a brilliant cause. Amazing. So yeah, it's been a manic time. I don't know about you, but as well as all the kind of normal public events, public facing events in GAD week or month, I've been seeing a lot more internally facing ones. And I've actually been speaking at more internal events, within organizations than in previous years. So I don't know if you've been seeing that. I mean, the reason why I kind of flag it is because when it comes to public events, people kind of opt in, they register, they turn up, and often they're kind of already on that page and feeling passionate about accessibility. But if you're doing it internally, it's to a whole team or maybe a whole department or even a whole organization. So I suppose there's more potential anyway of getting to people that, aren't on board and aren't really kind of passionate about digital accessibility already. Have you had any vibe about whether it's public or internal or both?
For me, GAD has been internal for years, most of it. What I mean by that is simply I get asked, Jennison, I'm sure, gets asked to speak internally at organizations. And I really, really dive into that because that means that the organization is put together, has a head of accessibility, has some kind of program. And I think that my heart is with those heads of accessibility who are sitting there, very often a team of a small team having to support thousands of employees, and they're just doing God's work. And I think that that's amazing. So I would say maybe by the year 5, probably by the 5th year of GAD, it got to about half of the events were internal. And by now, there's so many accessibility teams in different companies that I would agree with you. I think probably 70% of the events are internal, and most people don't even hear about it.
Absolutely. And, I've done so many internal facing ones as well as, public facing. But my last event with a GAD label is on the 31st. So, this is kind of going right up to, it should be GAD month, really, shouldn't it? So, yeah. Really good.
Amazon about 6 years ago, I think, had created GAM, so they're calling it Global Accessibility Awareness Month. Charlie Riggle created that, and they are doing a month full of internal tutorial sessions in order to train employees on accessibility. And I'm only sharing that because they shared it publicly. So. I'm happy to talk about events where they have shared it publicly, but for the most part, it's private stuff, and we keep it out of the news.
Brilliant. And of course, we want to get to GAAY, where basically it's an all year round, everyday part of people's day job. They are confident with what they're doing and the tools they're using and that sort of thing. But yeah, GARD is a brilliant kind of springboard for people to get to hear about accessibility in all its kind of varieties and on all the new platforms and that sort of thing. So what do you think are the kind of biggest challenges and maybe opportunities for digital accessibility, or digital inclusion, as we like to call it, going forward? So, well, at the moment, what would you say the biggest challenges are? We're definitely making progress. I think, everyone can see that we're heading in the right direction, but, there are still challenges out there, aren't there?
I mean, when you're looking at the WebAIM Million, where they do this yearly report analyzing the top million websites, it was what, 98%, 97%, then back up to 98%, and this year it's 96% of the websites are inaccessible and very inaccessible. Though I will say that I think that when you're looking at the top million, it's a lot of websites, and I think it's important work, but we need to also be looking at where it's changing. And I think we started to see years ago was at the very top end of tech. So the big tech companies, which honestly, captures most of our attention, right? The 80-20 rule. So there's lots of improvement. And then now with a valuable 500, they've gotten all these CEOs of Fortune 500 companies to take their pledge, and to make accessibility more of a serious initiative internally. So I'd say that you're starting to see it being top down get better and better, but I'd love to see more metrics on it. I think that's something that we need to see. So obviously the challenges on the bottom, let's say 96%, we need to make it easier for the individual developer. And to that end, you were talking about making it GAY. That's the reason that we launched the GAD Foundation, because people kept bringing that up. We should be doing accessibility every day. And we had several initiatives, but our mission is to change the culture of digital product development so that accessibility is a core value. Because we can sit here and from the CEO down, dictate accessibility. We care about accessibility, develop accessibly, and then you get the realities of development where there are costs to it, and people will cut corners. But culture eats directives for breakfast. And if you have a culture that says, hey, there's an open source project and it's not accessible, and then the peers are saying, oh, this project, they don't care about accessibility, I don't think I'm going to take this on. You have to sort of hit that nerve of the code as craft or design as craft, and make people feel like, I don't know what I'm doing. Like I've done something inaccessible. I didn't even know I did it inaccessible, and it's because I'm ignorant of it. Like you have to make them feel like this is important. And once you change that culture, then maybe they will always fight with the budgets, but once you have that part of the culture, then you've really turned the corner, and that's the big mission. And so to that end, we've launched, I did this years ago, the GAD pledge, and then we folded it into the foundation. So Facebook took the first pledge to make React Native accessible. Then Ember.js is a JavaScript framework, and then there's Drupal is another framework. So they took the GAD pledge. And then this year, with AI being so big, we went a slightly different direction and partnered with Intel, who took the GAD pledge for the OpenFL Foundation, which is a model that helps with the privacy of machine learning. So that instead of breaking all these HIPAA rules and having the private data sent to a central location, they send their models to be trained locally at hospitals and different locations. And then they return back the training data, which is completely anonymized, and there's no real meaty data there. And they've had tremendous success. So they've taken the GAD pledge to make their open source project accessible. And we've seen a lot of good work out of Intel. Daryl Adams is doing an amazing job there.
That is so brilliant. And I love the idea of, coders, UX people taking pride in doing things in an inclusive way. Because, they take pride in making things look beautiful.
Mm-hmm.
Coders, gone are the days where you get paid by the line of code submitted. It's been a long time that organizations have seen the value of quality code over volume of code.
Mm-hmm.
So if you can then really embrace the idea of doing things in an inclusive way as well, and taking pride in that, that would be really amazing. And you mentioned about ML, and let's broaden that out then and talk about AI more generally, because obviously, you don't want to do a kind of a drinking game with people mentioning AI at the moment, otherwise you'd constantly be horizontal. But so how would you see AI playing its part, maybe on the dev side, on the coder side, or UX, or on the user side?
Oh, on everything. I think it's not to be cliche, but it's revolutionary. What I'm trying to get across to folks is that AI and accessibility are hand in hand. AI is accessibility, and what I mean by that is when you think about disability or impairments, and you think about what artificial intelligence is trying to do, is you've got sensory input, and AI is trying to understand the sensory input. And an impairment is simply some kind of disturbance in that input. So whether that's pictures, the visual inputs, video, or you're talking about audio, all of that is what the machine is trying to understand. And what has been transformative is literally transformers. The LLMs came out of transformer technology, and what it is really good at is translating from one type of input to another. So here you are, you're trying to understand the visual of a picture or a video. You can do automated alt text. And what I want to, I basically trying to work on AI and accessibility. And one place where I see it working that will change the way that we consume content is, imagine you're watching a TV show like Game of Thrones, which has hundreds of characters. And there's some people who remember every character really well. I do not remember the name of the characters in a movie during the movie, certainly after the movie. And when I see a new character in Game of Thrones, which I loved, I'd love to be able to stop the video and say, who are you? What episode were you in? Just replay me the scene. And basically query the machine, the video, to understand from different people's perspective. So this is something that is an audio, like a different audio description, and we probably need a different term for it. And this doesn't exist yet. This is something that I'd love to build for somebody, or see somebody build out. And it's inevitable. Like, this is coming for sure. Mm-hmm. So now here you are, you've created something that is for the world of accessibility, but everybody's going to use it, right? So it's all about taking information, that sensory information that an AI understood, and sorry, I'm just thinking out loud as we're talking. I'm realizing it's about ability and disability. So memory-wise, you could say that everybody has a disability, unless there's the one or two that might have a perfect recall. The mm-hmm. machine has got a full memory, right? So the fact that you can query and say, hey, what episode did you first speak in? That is, taking the impairment of being unable to remember everything that we've ever seen, and boom, you have that information for you. So that's why I'm saying it's tied in together. And then I'll finish with the point that as it gets personal to you, if you're blind, you want to turn everything or most things into audio. And please tell me if you agree with me or not here, because I would love to have a challenge to what I've been saying. But if you're blind, you want to have most things translated to you to audio. If you're mm-hmm. deaf, you want to have most things translated visual. If you're deaf blind, you want to have haptics, right? So the AI in the future should be translating all of the inputs. And reality, I got this one from Daryl Adams at Intel, reality will be generated real time, mm-hmm. and you will be presented the right thing at the right time. How does that strike you?
honestly, I cannot wait. 2 to 3 years, I've heard people say, before we have real-time, live transcription or analysis of video streams, and that might be into, well, just name your preferred output. For me, it would be audio description, better than any human that I have been bothering over the years to tell me what's going on, on all those shows that don't have AD, right down to being able to pause it and get infinite descriptions about, their facial expressions, what they're wearing, some other significant features of the video, whatever it might be, or kind of, background context to the setting of the show, or I don't know, whatever it might be, or having it translated into a little video signer in the corner or whatever it might be. So yeah, that's going to happen. Like you say, I'm really, really excited about that. It's like a revolution. It's not an evolution. And some people are obviously a little bit concerned about how fast things are moving, but certainly, at AbilityNet, we have the Tech for Good Awards, and this is definitely an area where AI can be applied for good. Obviously, there are nefarious actors as well, but it's ripe for application to help people overcome whatever their particular sensory, cognitive, physical impairment are, etc. So yeah, really, really exciting. What about the application of AI on code, to help people create better code? We've talked about tools like Drupal, etc. It really helps to have a good, accessible, potentially compliant toolkit in the first instance, but AI for helping people with code, AI for testing, for compliance against the Web Content Accessibility Guidelines. How about that?
That's all starting to get better. I wouldn't say that it launched with accessibility. I've tested GPT-3, 3.5. It did. I lightly tested it. I won't say it was something like serious for a report, but I was just like, hey, generate some code for me, some HTML. And then what I found with 3.5, it was so-so. Probably better than the average coder, but it needed some work. GPT-4, this was not perfect, but it also got better. Copilot, not perfect, but got better. But if you specifically query it and ask it to do things accessibly, it does way better.
Yeah.
And then I saw some announcement from Microsoft or GitHub about a accessibility Copilot thing. I didn't have time. Obviously, it's been a pretty busy month, but I know that I'm positive that they're working on that, and that's gonna be massive improvement. And Copilot, for those who don't know, is a coding assistant, an AI coding assistant. So the day that spits out code that's accessible by default, that's a huge game changer, no question about it. In terms of the automated tools, that's been the holy grail, really, of getting the percentage that automated up. I think that the cutting edge that probably isn't really out there yet is probably at 80%, and I think it can go up from there. But we'll see. Give it a few years.
Yeah, I mean, at the moment, the best accessibility, automated checkers can't touch JavaScript. So, there's plenty of room for AI to really get stuck in there and help remedy issues at source, rather than, overlaying fixes when it comes to the user client, like the browser or whatever it might be. So, yeah, and talking about overlaying.
Wait, Robin, before you go there, let me just interject one more thing here. So I think that one other thing that we're going to see is that AI is going to be sort of a new screen reader, because you're going to be able to point to a URL and it's going to I mean, you can already sort of do it today, but I think the Be My Eyes app, that is going to be a real big game changer when it comes out of beta. I mean, they've got some interesting things cooking. If you've seen some of the news releases and some of the video, Microsoft released information there, that's going to be a game changer. So I would definitely download Be My Eyes and watch that closely. Are you a user?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. We actually interviewed Mike Buckley the
Oh,
CEO
great.
of Be My Eyes last week. I think it's going to go out after this one though. So yeah, it's going to be a
Great.
weird chronology there, but absolutely, that is going to be an absolute game changer. And I have heard that too, that it's going to be, almost supplanting other UIs or other kind of ways of interacting with technology, a bit like, smart speakers brought in the age of ambient computing where you can just talk to the air. These large language models are really in their element when you are just dealing with language, and you can query a website rather than having to just mess around with pages of code and that sort of thing. And you don't even need to know anything about that website except that you can buy stuff on it, for example, and you could say, find me such and such on this website, and buy me that thing, and using the payment details of my choice, whatever it might be. I'm really excited about that too. Absolutely. Yeah. Cool. Overlays, just very quickly, not to bring the conversation down too much, but I definitely see those as one of the challenges today and maybe going forward, because for people that aren't aware, these are bits of code that web owners embed in their website that can change the presentation of the page. In some cases, it can change how the page is formatted and coded for screen reader users, for example, and they have pluses and minuses. What's your thoughts on their use?
The first thing is, how do users feel? And I think that that's a question to ask users. But if you're looking at Twitter, whenever there's a hashtag or a lot of these companies, you can look at the responses and decide for yourself if it's working. But taking a look at it from both a business perspective as well as a technology perspective, my take on it is there's some good things there. It's AI based, which I think they really overplay. But the approach for an overlay to me would be an assistive technology. And that means that the user installs it on the user side, and then you can get used to the tool and how it works and how you configure the setting. That's the appropriate solution. Like any piece of the features that work well, that should sit on the client side that needs to use it. But instead, if you're having it installed as a line of JavaScript to tell a business that you can pay X $100 a month, and then you don't actually have to care about accessibility, and that this is going to solve the problem, is really it's the business model that makes most sense for the technology they've got. But if the idea is to solve the problem, then they're approaching it on the wrong angle, because now as a user, I don't know how many overlay companies there are, probably 10, 15, and they keep growing. So now you have to configure on every single website brand new. You have to configure what works for you. You have to learn the system in all these different places. So imagine if somebody that's not a screen reader user has to go in and the browser changes on them in every single website. That's really what it seems to me the experience would be with the approach they take. So first of all, it's a shame, because there is some technology there. I believe that there is, and I know that there's pieces of it that might be helpful, but the approach is wrong to me, because you're going like I said, you're going to the website and you have to learn a brand new system every time. In addition, I've seen where it messes you up when you're trying to fix. Like I've had some clients where they're getting sued and they wanted their websites fixed, and we're trying to fix it, and then they had what do you call it, a settlement, where they had to install one of these overlays, and the overlay was clashing with the fixes that we need to put. And so, it really puts the client in a real bad bind, because if they remove the overlay, then they're breaking their settlement agreement. And if they don't remove the overlay, it can be a struggle to fix the underlying website. And so one thing I would just say is, do not sign any settlement agreement that prescribes that you put an overlay to fix it, because then you're really stuck.
Yeah. Or at least garner feedback from end users about the popularity or the efficacy of these overlays before signing anything. Absolutely. I mean, as a screen reader user myself, one of my worst fears when I hit a website is that not only is there one of these overlays present, but that the screen reader compatibility mode is kind of on by default because it detects that I'm using a screen reader. And that, the degradation in usability and the likelihood that I'm going to be able to turn it off is really low. I might as well just leave that site well alone and go elsewhere. It's basically killed that site for me. So yeah, I think screen reader users, we're the hardest customers to cater for, probably the least well served, in my opinion anyway, by these overlays. I'm sure they look really sexy and what they can do for, low vision users, etc. But yeah, anyway, so that was a really good answer. Thank you so much.
I'll add something else that I've never shared publicly. One of these overlays, a venture capitalist that wanted to invest in them wanted my opinion on it. I gave my opinion, and they were just saying, "Look, it's AI. It just solves it automatically. Can I just show you?" And I'm like, "Okay, show me." And then they go into a really big brand site that has it installed. And I didn't really have to tell them anything because they I said, "Here, try to use this, turn this on, turn that on." It did not take 5 minutes and they saw it was broken. So there you have it.
They demo well, I'm sure. But
it did not.
Yeah.
It did not.
Well,
you mean when they do their, yeah.
when the salesperson is doing their thing. Yes. Cool. Okay, let's wrap up then. Have you got any kind of aspirations about Guard and where it might go in the future, or by all means broaden out to accessibility, although we have kind of talked about the excitement around AI and its potential. But yeah, what are you most excited about the future?
For me, I don't approach it like I believe in celebrating GAD, don't get me wrong, but I am pretty mission driven. And for me, like that 96% always bothers me. I don't want like all this celebration without making sure that there is effort toward the changing of the culture, right? So I'm just focused on that, honestly. And I think we're making a lot of strides. I think AI will change the game in the next year. So by next year, the entire landscape will look different. And I have no idea what it's going to look like for the world of accessibility, but I believe that it's going to bring lots of improvements. But we really have to keep on working on the cultural issues. And I will add something, that a lot of the culture around building digital products lives on GitHub. And I'm so happy they hired Ed Summers to head up accessibility there. And he is doing an amazing job in already a very short period of time. And I believe with some of the things that he's working on, that we're going to start to see that cultural shift. And for that, I'm really excited.
Cool. And Microsoft announced a GitHub Copilot this week. So yeah, they have great. So many. Really amazing. Cool. Thank you very much indeed. Before we let you go, do you want to tell people where they can find you if you want to be found, or if you want to plug anything else, feel free.
Sure. I'm at Joe Devon pretty much everywhere. I'm heading up accessibility for Formula Monks, which is part of Media Monks. And we're working on AI for accessibility product. So if anybody's interested in exploring some kind of AI accessibility work, please do hit me up. And the best is probably to send me a DM on LinkedIn. And again, I'm linkedin.com/in/Joe Devon.
Fantastic. Thank you, Joe. It's probably not your last Guard-related interview, but yeah, keep it up. Nice one. Thank you.
Thank you. I really appreciate it, Robin.